The new bounty hunter, Chateau Dankworth, encounters the master assassin Song Ryang-ha and suffers defeat at his hands. To her surprise, he attempts to flirt with her. In the following month, Song persistently asks her out on dates, even going so far as to capture valuable bounties to catch her attention. Despite his efforts, Chateau ignores him. Meanwhile, Chateau's boss, Euripides Ritzland, receives a request to apprehend Song, who had previously killed numerous high-ranking triad members 8 years ago. Euripides advises Chateau to concentrate on her current, less perilous target. However, Song contacts Chateau, having already captured her target, and asks her out on a date for Christmas Eve, to which she reluctantly agrees. On that evening, Song has a great time, while Chateau stubbornly refuses to acknowledge it as a date. During dinner in Song's hotel room, he discloses that Chateau's target, a pimp who would rob his girlfriend's clients, is now dead and stashed away for her to collect. Though suspicious, Chateau realizes that Song wants nothing in return except to spend time with her. Euripides witnesses Song's interaction with Chateau but remains uncertain about its significance. Through a flashback, it is revealed that Chateau was discovered as a child alongside an unidentified deceased man, with no recollection of her own name. Song's return home is observed by a man. Euripides expresses concern about Chateau becoming involved with Song. Chateau retrieves the body of her targeted pimp. Euripides discloses to Chateau that Song was responsible for assassinating the eldest son of a triad boss, the very person who had hired them to locate Song. While driving, Chateau is shot at by a man bearing a spiderweb face tattoo, causing her to crash off the road. Chateau's behavior changes, prompting Song to grow suspicious as she now allows his calls to ring endlessly instead of rejecting them instantly. Chased into the woods by Spiderweb, Chateau is overpowered by him. Song arrives, discovers Chateau's car, and uses a trick to make Spiderweb answer Chateau's phone, thus revealing their location. Spiderweb leaves Chateau alive but conveys a message for Song, stating that he is a traitor and must face the consequences for his past actions. Chateau regains consciousness in a hotel where Song admits that her current predicament is indirectly linked to mistakes he made. Afflicted with a fever, Chateau faints once more but manages to inform Song about the spiderweb tattoo. Although uncertain, Song suspects that he has encountered Spiderweb before. Due to her fever, Chateau dreams about the night she was discovered as a child alongside the deceased man. Appearing downcast, Chateau takes a shower but becomes furious when Song manages to take her clothes, including her underwear, to be cleaned. Before departing, she relays Spiderweb's message. Song recollects a time 5 years ago when he and Spiderweb, whose real name is revealed to be Ho, worked for the same organization. Ho was furious because Song was about to be promoted ahead of him, despite Ho having worked there longer. Chateau returns to the office where Euripides is displeased with her absence and the damage to her car. Later, Chateau discovers Song in her home. He takes notice of a photograph that captures his interest, depicting Chateau with her parents. Chateau discloses that Euripides is aware of Song's existence, but Song remains unconcerned. He explains that if their association and the fact that Chateau and the company benefited from his bounty captures were exposed, it would ruin their reputation. Their only options, then, are either to eliminate him or work with him secretly. Chateau is puzzled as to why Song is willing to risk his life, but he points out that she is doing the same by associating with him, having never outright rejected him. Chateau's mother calls, reminding her of the anniversary of her father's death, which deeply upsets her, prompting Song to leave. At her father's grave, Chateau pays a visit while her mother encounters Brian, a childhood friend of Chateau's, and decides to confide in him. In the cemetery's church, Song meets Chateau, but she declines his offer to spend time together. Suddenly, the church is attacked by 3 men. Song swiftly eliminates 2 of them and interrogates the remaining assailant, discovering that Chateau was the intended target. Concerned, Chateau rushes to locate a missing nun from the church and finds Ho holding her hostage. Despite her attempts to fight back, Ho manages to knock Chateau unconscious. Song contacts Ho, demanding to know his motives. Chateau's mother unveils the truth about Chateau's adoption at a young age. Her husband, who happened to be the police officer in charge at the time Chateau was found alongside the deceased man with the passport identifying him as Song Ryang-ha, chose to adopt her. Chateau had claimed her surname was Nobel, but no records of a Chateau Nobel could be found. When the case turned cold, Chateau was adopted and became Chateau Dankworth. Song encounters Ho and defeats him, but the car in which Chateau was being held captive explodes. Despite being injured from a gunshot, Ho brandishes a knife and insists on continuing their fight. The escape of Chateau from the explosion is depicted. Ho recalls his past when he was a drug addict and was taken in by a triad member named Sung-woo, who became his mentor. However, Sung-woo was killed by Song during his mission to assassinate the triad leaders. Ho manages to stab Song but is fatally shot. Song rescues Chateau and they flee, but he loses consciousness due to his wound. Another unidentified assassin reports Ho's defeat to their superior and seeks guidance on the next course of action. With assistance from Jim, Europe's secretary, Chateau manages to bring Song to a clandestine doctor in a back alley. However, Chateau suspects that Jim has been reporting everything to Europe's, so she suggests that Song quietly disappear before Europe's arrives. Song offers to take Chateau with him, promising a life free from responsibilities, but she refuses his proposition, and he departs after teasing her playfully. As a consequence, Europe's suspends Chateau from duty for 3 weeks. Once her suspension is over, Song contacts Chateau to inform her that he is embarking on a trip. Chateau begins experiencing memory flashes of the deceased man while he was still alive. Chateau, Europe's, and Jim assume undercover roles on the cruise ship Artemisia to safeguard one of Europe's relatives, a highly influential VIP in global politics and finance. Unbeknownst to them, Song also boards the ship, as does the mysterious assassin. In earlier times, an unnamed child is saved by a man who gives him the name Song Ryang-ha. Chateau and Jim discover that the VIP they are protecting on the cruise ship is Hawk, who happens to be Europe's wife. Hawk owns a multi-billion-dollar corporation and possesses significant political connections through her influential family. Song confronts Chateau, who suspects that his presence is linked to a plot to assassinate Hawk. However, Song neither confirms nor denies this suspicion. Instead, he challenges Chateau, stating that as long as she can see him, he will refrain from taking any action. With Europe's approval, Chateau agrees to share a room with Song for the duration of the voyage, while Europe's and Jim monitor them through cameras. Song notices that Chateau is having difficulty sleeping and, after some playful teasing, carries her to bed, where she quickly falls asleep. This surprises Song, indicating that she must trust him to some extent. Song also observes that Chateau's attire draws attention to her instead of maintaining a low profile, so he takes her dress shopping. Despite her obvious discomfort, Jim organizes additional reinforcements to ensure Hawks. The unknown assassin stabs Europe's. As revealed, Chateau receives directions from Song on where to find Europe's, and she pursues the escaping assassin. The assassin warns Song and Chateau to stay on the ship before getting away. Before being taken to the hospital with Hawk and Jim, Europe's manages to inform Chateau that Song is not the one who stabbed him. Chateau is then confronted by Jinan, the assassin, with the offer to spare her mother's life and pay her a large sum. Jinan convinces Chateau to locate Song and point her gun at him. Surprisingly, Song agrees to be handed over to Jinan, overwhelmed by guilt and fear for her mother. Chateau attempts to shoot herself to remove any reason for Jinan to kill her mother. However, Song angrily intervenes and stops her, while demanding that she be more honest with herself and others. Jose and Cedran grow suspicious about the voyage not being cancelled after Europe's departure. The manipulative actions of Jinan's boss are revealed. Song chokes Chateau unconscious. In a flashback, Song is depicted as a diligent teenager studying with the goal of working for Donnie, the person who rescued and named him. However, instead of that, Donnie assigns Song an important secret mission. In her dream, Chateau finds herself in a car with a deceased man who identifies himself as Song Ryang-ha. A friend, she reveals her own identity as Chateau Nobel to him. Jose and Cedran are murdered by Jinan. Upon Europe's awakening, Jim decides to rendezvous with the ship at the next port, but he is shot by another assassin. At the port, Song disembarks from the ship and meets Jinan, explaining that he has left Chateau on board to keep her out of further involvement. Jinan, accompanied by another assassin named Nika, proceeds to drive Song towards their employer. They claim their employer is Donald Bachman, also known as Donnie, but Song denies knowing him and resists Nika's attempts to interrogate him further. Jim, who sustained only minor injuries due to his car's bulletproof glass, locates Chateau on the ship. They try to leave, but are intercepted by the assassin who targeted Jim, and who now seeks to capture Chateau. Working together, they manage to shoot and incapacitate the assassin. Donnie calls the assassin's phone, but Chateau refuses to answer it. Song, handcuffed and blindfolded, is taken to meet Donnie. Donnie provides an explanation that his assassins are orphaned individuals whom he raised without revealing their identities. He discloses that Song Ryang-ha was a name given to one of his orphans who passed away, indicating that the current Song is an imposter. Chateau and Jim manage to escape the ship clandestinely, accompanied by the injured assassin who proceeds to reveal Donnie's alias as the trigger. Donnie is paid by clients to instigate wars globally using his team of assassins. Chateau implores Jim to protect her parents and then resigns, intending to cease her actions that might tarnish Europe's reputation. Nika grants Song the freedom to release himself so they can engage in combat. Multiple guards are eliminated, and Song's recently healed wound is reopened. Using a truck, Chateau forcefully breaks through the gate of Donnie's mansion. Song's blood loss weakens him, and a flashback shows that he, as a child, was present in the car alongside a young Chateau and the real Ryang-ha. Overwhelmed, Song collapses and appears to come to terms with his impending death. Nonchalantly, Nika mentions that Chateau is waiting outside before departing. Jinan confronts Nika regarding the release of Song. Determined to recover, Song rescues Chateau from the guards and playfully refers to her as an idiot for risking her life to save him. Chateau and Song take refuge in a homeless camp to attend to Song's injuries. Feeling remorse for unintentionally aiding Song's escape, Nika vows to locate and eliminate him. Awkwardly, Chateau and Song express gratitude to each other for saving one another. Donnie decides not to send Nika after Song, but he still insists on finding Chateau, whom he has been searching for since her childhood. Song is compelled to engage in pickpocketing for money, revealing that due to a troubled upbringing, he acquired criminal skills before learning to read or write. This revelation triggers a sense of guilt in Chateau. Curiosity arises within Chateau regarding Donnie's organization and their interest in her, but Song refuses to provide an answer. Angered by this, Chateau contemplates leaving to discover the truth herself. In a moment of anger, Song threatens to harm her wrist to ensure her compliance, but he eventually relents and explains that he cannot bear to lose her again after spending years searching for her. Suddenly, Chateau recollects a childhood memory of shooting someone. Through a flashback, it is revealed that Donnie had entrusted the original Ryang-ha with the task of protecting a man named List Nobel. While on his way to meet List, Ryang-ha encountered a young Song and rescued him from child traffickers. While waiting for List, a university student named Ryang-ha took care of Song for a week. Just as Song was preparing to leave, Ryang-ha received a distressing call from List, urging him to find something hidden by List. In the midst of the conversation, List was shot by Sung Woo, who was enraged upon discovering that the girl he was searching for was not present. With Ryang-ha's assistance, they discovered a young girl sleeping inside a concealed suitcase. Uncertain about what to do, they resorted to stealing a car and drove away. The girl woke up, crying, but managed to reveal her identity as Chateau Nobel. Realizing that she was List's daughter, Ryang-ha made the decision to take responsibility for her. Seeking shelter for the night, they broke into a cabin. Song, however, made the choice to depart. Briefly, Ryang-ha contemplated whether he should eliminate Song to safeguard his location, but ultimately allowed him to leave. On his journey, Song encountered the surviving child traffickers who sought revenge and pursued him into the woods. Overwhelmed by guilt, Ryang-ha made the difficult decision to retrieve Song, leaving Chateau sleeping and leaving behind his firearm. Failing to locate Song, Ryang-ha returned to the cabin where a frightened and lonely Chateau, who had woken up, hid in the closet with Ryang-ha's gun. When he attempted to open the door, she shot him. As an adult, Chateau, now recalling all these events, collapses in Song's arms. Despite being severely beaten, Song fought back and managed to kill the trafficker. Ryang-ha sustained a gunshot wound to the neck but initially survived and escaped in a car with Chateau. Song lost consciousness and woke up in a hospital a week later. A police detective, presumed to be Officer Dankworth, who would later become Chateau's adoptive father, informed Song that Ryang-ha had passed away after ensuring Chateau's safety. This devastating news led Song to adopt Ryang-ha's name as his own. In the present, Song brings Chateau to another one of his secure locations, where she is so emotionally drained from recollecting everything that she sleeps for 2 days straight. Upon awakening, she is furious to discover that Song had been aware of everything all along but had kept it from her. However, she finally comprehends why she had never truly rejected Song. Deep within her mind, she had recognized the name Ryang-ha and could not bring herself to reject the man she unintentionally killed. Donnie meets with the head of the Nobel family, and Nika takes Jim captive, while Europedes successfully ensures the safety of Chateau's mother. Chateau attempts to hire Song to assassinate Donnie, but he informs her that she will need to collaborate with him as an equal. She enthusiastically accepts the proposition but becomes puzzled when he refuses monetary payment and instructs her to discern his true desires as compensation.
I hope you liked the recap. If so, don't forget to subscribe and like it.